You can't give shit leftards an inch.
Can you define shit leftist?
All collectivists, all kinds of collectivists.
But why do you call them shit?
Because they are shit.
If you are a fan of Western civilization, then I submit you should also be a fan of what just happened in Argentina with Javier Milei winning the presidential elections there against an opponent who represented Argentina's own brand of intergenerational socialism called peronism, which has essentially, as is projected to the end of this year, brought Argentina to a 180% inflation level and also has 40% of their population living under the poverty line. The citizens of Argentina decided to reject that worldview and the spoils of socialism for their posterity, and they have chosen to take a radical departure from that old world nonsense. And that radical departure consists in the fullest expression of individual freedom within moral constraints that has been seen yet, in my opinion, in the West, perhaps besides in the example of America. And that is one of the reasons why I believe Javier Milei's victory is so important for Western civilization. But let's look at this broader. Let's go beyond the Argentinian context, because that is one context that is important, but far too many observers on the internet are looking solely at Argentina, looking solely at its history of socialistic policies causing it destitution and decadence and destroying their traditions, their integrity, making them default on their credit several times, destroying everything about that country, putting their citizens in poverty. That's one level. But the bigger level is this. A good leader who really understands how proper political order works is someone who is an expert or who has the right thinking in three domains: in the political domain, in the social domain, and in the economic domain. Javier, the new president, actually has all of those down pat. In fact, Milei's thinking in the economic domain is almost close to perfect. This is a man who has read theorists, philosophers like Murray Rothbard, theorists like Ludwig von Mises and other people, Hayek, people who actually, in the 20th century, were the brains behind the operation to oppose the USSR's socialism on a social and economic level. They were the people that produced the American conservative movement's love and affection for the free market and for the free individual being able to trade within the bounds of that market. Milei is in a long tradition of thinkers that have been fighting this battle for a very long time, and he has simply taken this to Argentina. But that's not simply why I think his economic thinking is brilliant. I think his economic thinking is brilliant because he understands the pitfalls of central banks and how central banks, private, unaccountable entities, can direct the course of an economy in an unaccountable way that harms the citizens of the economy, which is why he has came out in full support of abolishing central banks.
I think there's a previous discussion about dollarization. Actually, strictly speaking, is to get rid of the central bank. The dollarization is an instrumental issue at the end of the day. There are four argumentative axes. One has to do with a moral issue, which is that stealing is wrong, and seigniorage is nothing more or less than a swindle by politicians against good people. Therefore, let's say, if we consider that stealing is wrong, one of the greatest thieves in the history of mankind is the central bank. The second point has to do with a technical issue, because in the Argentine case, it is more evident when a product has no demand, its price is zero. So if the local currency has no demand and its price should be zero, the equilibrium real balances are zero. Whatever amount of money a central bank wishes to impose, the counterpoint is that the price level is infinite. Demand and its price should be zero. Equilibrium real balances are zero. Whatever amount of money a central bank wants to impose, the flip side is that the price level has infinity. So, in other words, it is a naturally inflationary economy.
Milei also recognizes that dollarization, even though it's a fiat currency and it's not as stable, is the best way to get Argentina out of the crisis it's in, because its own currency has been degraded and pilfered by socialist thieves at the very upper echelon of their society and of their government. Milei also recognizes the importance of fighting crime, the impact that crime has on an economy, which is why he has laid out extensive plans to be able to fight the kind of crime that Argentina has faced. But his political thinking is even better. Because in an interview he did, where he was talking about his economic ideology and his political ideology, he specifically mentions that central banks and other entities engage in a form of theft, which is immoral, and that will be the basis by which his policy is set forth to oppose them. To hear a politician talking about morality, not in a superficial way, not in a vacuous way, but in a way that actually touches on first principles, and then allows the viewer, if they so choose, to peer into those first principles and actually deduce and understand why these things are moral, why these things are immoral, and what their foundations are. To see a politician do that in an age of mediocrity, in an age where substance is almost completely and utterly gone from any Western politicians, in an age of platitudes where politicians like Rishi Sunak and Emmanuel Macron have presided over the destruction of their nations from socialistic forces, from mass migration, that is excessively rare. And that is one of the reasons why Milei is an absolute gem in his political thinking. He starts from first principles. He does not start from his agenda. He doesn't start from platitudes. He starts from first principles and moves on. And he does not care how radical those principles are. He believes they are true, and evidently, in my opinion, they certainly are true. But regardless of that, if you begin with first principles, the chance of your operation, your thinking, being open to manipulation from the status quo or from bad actors is virtually zero, because you understand what you believe, you know why you believe what you believe, and you can argue on a rational basis why you believe in what you believe, and this creates a strong constitution of self. But the political and economic are just two poles. We're right in the middle, the social. Milei understands that fighting the culture war is not simply a matter of getting the politics right. It's a matter of ensuring the right ideas are instilled in the people in your country. But you don't do that, and this is the difference between him and the socialist. You don't do that through social engineering. You don't do that through state-run propaganda campaigns. You do that through modeling an example through the government of what political order should be, and then setting the expectations of society around that example. The problem in modern-day Western thinking, on both the left and the right, some aspects of the right at least, is that they have decided that political order, the tools of government, should be used to serve their own personal tastes, as opposed to being used as a science, as it was always meant to be. Politics is a science, not a practice. It's a science. A science that, if it's not applied correctly, will have disastrous experiments, and we've seen those experiments be disastrous throughout history. And if you don't apply this science according to the principles under which this science is constituted, then the government goes out of its proper bounds. People are hurt. Society is harmed. And moreover, an entire generation are confused about what politics should be in their life, what role politics should have in their life. We see this on both the communitarian right, which is so eager to ban pornography and ban cigarettes and ban things they don't agree with, and on the communitarian collectivist left that are so eager to come in and set a minimum wage, that are so eager to come in and try to reorganize the fabric of society and really reorganize human nature. If you really understand what the leftists believe, they believe that man, as Jean-Jacques Rousseau said in his works throughout the years, they believe that man is simply a result of the institutions that he happens to be in proximity to in his pathway through society. And so what do they want to do? They want to use those institutions, including the law, to mold man into their own image. This is why the welfare state exists. The welfare state is a rejection, an anti-human rejection of the innate human will and capacity for greatness. And it is instead an assertion that society has a duty by virtue and at point of a gun to care for you when you have the ability to care for yourself. And when you can't care for yourself, the welfare state comes in, usurps the role for the social institutions to have place, usurps the voluntary action that actually produces the best forms of charity that are not subject to state control and all that nonsense, and it comes in and replaces all of it. Where a Leviathan exists, charity cannot actually be powerful. It cannot actually flourish. When you understand all these principles, my friends, and you can unite them, this becomes more than about some man wielding a chainsaw screaming. This becomes more than about some man using foul words in an interview. Those are all gimmicks that Javier uses to draw people in. But his intellect lies in his understanding of certain things and his application of first principles to political order. Now, I'm a conservative in the American sense, meaning I believe that liberty of the individual is at the central ethos of any political action. So for me, sitting in this nation, I believe that someone like Javier is what every Latin American country needs. Latin America has been desecrated by violence-ran ideologies from the old world under socialism. So much so that there are very few prosperous countries in that region, Chile being the main one. But of course, Chile may be going down a bad path itself right now because they just elected a socialist as well. The people of Milei, the impulsive youth, decided that decades of prosperity under capitalism was not good. So they're going to go ahead and elect socialists. It's unfortunate. But we have to understand, on a civilizational level, this win is significant. Because socialism represents an old world mindset, which subordinates the individual to class status and anoints the revolutionaries acting to the state above him and seeks to facilitate his existence in society. Socialism does not see man as the spiritual being that he is. And in not seeing man as the spiritual being that he is, and subordinating him to status, not only does it ruin his potential, it destroys the basis for a flourishing and healthy society. But not only that, it confuses the proper domains of government action by proceeding first from an immoral principle that they find to be moral. Socialism is confusion on a political level, on a social level, economic level, and on a moral level. And it is important for all of us to reject the old world, whether that be socialism, whether that be radical Islam, whether that be collectivism. I don't care what it is. The old world has many voices speaking out in force for it. It is incumbent upon us in the West, who love the West, who love the ideas of the West, and who love freedom, to reject soundly all anti-human principles that would seek to restrict man's nature unduly, and not only that, restrict his ability to achieve the best version of himself in a society of other achievers who seek to do the same thing as well. I'm not saying that Javier is perfect. He's not. There are plenty of reasons I'm sure people would disagree with him. And there are people calling him a fascist, which he's not a fascist, by the way. But there are folks that are just so shocked seeing a distilled embodiment of first principles manifest itself in a political context when they are used to mealy-mouthed, compromising, immoral, invertebrate, centrist types that want to come to the middle, and by going to the middle, sells their country out right down the river. They're in the middle looking at the country being sold right down the river. I don't care about the middle of the road. I reject the middle of the road. Because the middle of the road cannot tell me what is right or what is wrong. The middle of the road cannot set forth a stable foundation for a nation to exist. Because the middle of the road simply suggests that both sides are valid and both sides should have a talking to. And even if both sides can teach you something, if one side is undoubtedly evil, if one side seeks to subordinate you to status, if one side views you in a materialistic lens, socialism, then there can be no compromise, there can be no relenting, and there can be no coddling of that side. There is no middle of the road when it is a fight between evil. There is only you choose good or you choose evil. And if you choose to compromise with evil, you yourself are a party to evil. And I, my friends, in my house, will reject evil in all of its forms. No lesser of two evils. No. Disabuse yourselves of that lie. There is no lesser of evil. Evil is evil. And when you compromise your moral integrity to please some temporal political end, you also compromise your ability to understand how things should run in accordance to the truth. Because you are no longer a party to the truth. You are a warden. You are an agent of your own interests that divorce themselves from how things are beyond your own perspective. Reject evil, my friends. Rejoice in this day. For I believe if Javier truly said what he believed on the campaign trail, and if what I've shown you in the clips in this video are really reflections of who he is as a person, I believe Argentina and Western civilization are in for a wonderful time. If he truly intends to not trade with communists and to take that principle of national self-determination over internationalist globalism, over internationalist technocracy, then I believe the West has two shining lights, America and Argentina. We shall see. But my friends, I'm confident. I'm confident. I'm competent too. I'm confident. I'm happy. And I think that we should all look at this on a civilizational level, not merely a level of economies and statistics in Argentina. On a civilizational level, this victory is significant. Let us all wait and see. My friends, I love you guys so much. If you love me, like this video, comment on this video, share this video, subscribe to my channel. If you want to help me, please donate to me financially on Locals, on PayPal, on Buy Me a Coffee. All those links are in the comment section down below. My friends, I love you guys so much, and please, 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 stay pensive. Bye, guys.